Hello, welcome back. We've been on a bit of a hiatus, but we are here now, back to the Reading Rain Hose. I am your host, Diana Diamond, and today I am very excited for this particular novel. Actually, it's another graphic novel that we're going to be exploring today. It's called Flamer by Mike Curato. Now, it's also illustrated by him too. Isn't that fascinating? So, in today's episode, we have a book here that, as you can see from the cover, it kind of takes us to it's taking us to a fairly dark place, right? You know, the imagery here is a boy on fire, and we can only imagine what that would entail, right? Like what kind of setting the tone for this lovely book that we're about to discuss. We also, oh yes, big shout out to Boxer's Hell's Kitchen. They made My wonderful bartender Dave made this lovely mocktail. We're not drinking for a while, not necessarily for dry January, but we're just laying off the sauce for a bit. So let's see what he's made us. Oh, that's tasty. So, okay, we're getting hints of pineapple, some cranberry. Okay, and some Sprite. Okay. All right. Well, check out bartender Dave at Boxer's Hell's Kitchen. He may not be here next week. However, he is here this week. And so if you're nearby, come see him, come say hi. He is so sweet. So is everyone else here. So let's get started, shall we? So this is another one of those stories of coming of age, coming to terms, coming to terms with sexuality, but from a different lens. Now, this this comes from a boy. So the entire graphic novel takes place at he's at summer camp. He does Boy Scouts, and he's also very very Catholic. So he grew up a certain way. I can relate because I did too. I was also raised Catholic. So I don't know. Maybe Mike. Well, not necessarily Mike Curato. His The character's name is Aiden Navarro. Aiden Navarro, and coming to terms with sexuality whilst dealing with the pressures of your faith can be quite jarring. I can tell you that. Like, first of all, I probably mentioned this in many, if not all of my videos, but my family is amazing. Like they all love and accept me. I mean, you saw me in our Christmas episode. That was at my grandmother's home, non-disclosed location, but yeah, I just popped up in drag to grandma's house, and I'm like, hey, mom. I call my grandmother mom. My mom is Mama, and if y'all don't know her, you can call her Mama T. Okay, that's her LGBTQIA plus name when she's out with dolls. And what I think is exciting about this particular novel is that we're compared to previous ones, of course. So, for instance, for our first episode, we had All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. Now, the themes in that one were throughout most of their life, right? Throughout most of George's life. We followed that with the Gunkle, which was so cute, so much fun, but that's from an adult lens, right? Well, then we went on to Heartstopper, which was so cute, so lovey-dovey. It reignited my faith in love and made me feel ready. But I'm gonna tell y'all this right now, right here, right now. This novel, this graphic novel, and let me tell you, graphic. It's from an eighth grader going into high school, right? So it takes place in that summer, the transitional period of middle school, high school. And this poor kid, from the start, talks about, like, I'm not gay. But it's like, Mama, no one said you were. Look, I understand what that's like. You know, growing up a certain way and then everyone taking notice of what you say, how you say it, who you say it to, everything. That's the problem. Is that people are so so very aware of what other people are doing instead of worrying about what they're doing. Like, let this kid be gay. Let people be gay. Like, who cares? Mind your business. So I feel like that is a very a very New York, like a very New York motto. It's like, just mind your business. Like, I feel like New Yorkers particularly. This does not take place in New York, by the way. But just speaking on my own. New Yorkers as a whole, we like basically mastered the art of minding our business. It is magical. But it's also detrimental because, like, at some point we just don't really interact with each other. And so it gets a little tricky as far as human interaction, right? Like, you wouldn't here in New York, it's not very common to just speak to someone out in the streets unless you're asking for, like, something, directions, mostly directions, like if you're a tourist or if you're just lost. But yeah, just be gay. I know I say that a lot, and I definitely got that from Trixie Mattel. She just be gay. Who cares? Because, like it's really no one's business. So, dear Aiden is of Filipino descent. If I'm using incorrect terminology, please comment, like, all of that, because, Mama, I do not want to be ignorant. I want to be learned. I want to use proper terminology. And that's all I'm going to say on that. So, Aiden is of Philippine descent, and he's feeling the societal pressures from his peers mostly. You know, kids can be so rotten, you know, like just coming for each other for, like, no reason. And a lot of that can be or probably is most likely insecurity. Other boys with dealing with internalized homophobia. That's a very strong possibility. So I'm pretty sure that the boys that Aiden interacted with were probably a little gay. Like, especially the ones that were so adamant and so, like strict about Aiden being gay, even though he never said he was, right? Like, I myself have had similar experiences. Brother, if you're watching this, I know we've spoken about this in previous videos about coming out, and not really telling those closest to us, our closest friends and such. So, for instance, for me, it was my brother, where he ended up finding out through like social media. And so, he wasn't necessarily happy with that because I didn't tell him. Now, the rationale behind that was I just didn't want to lose my brother. Like I felt like if I said something, if I revealed that I'm gay, like the friendship would be over, done, like that's it. Fortunately, that wasn't the case. But I don't know. What do we think? What do we think the case is for Aiden? Let's look at this. Let's look at this album cover. He's holding up four fingers while on fire. Now, is it four or three? It looks like no, it's three. Holding three fingers. Now, if anybody has been in the Boy Scouts or any kind of scouts, because I believe they're now all inclusive. However, FYI, this takes place in 95. 95. So this was like the height of like gay suppression, gay hate, you know, the AIDS crisis, the AIDS epidemic. This was the time where everyone was fearing for their lives. People were dying left and right, and it's a horrifying thing to experience. Now, in 95, I was 4 years old. So I wasn't quite thinking about such things yet, but I do recall, having those moments of fear of being gay and automatically assuming that gay meant you have AIDS. And I probably mentioned that in previous videos too. So right now, right now, Aiden is Aiden is living through tough times. He's a teenager in these times. So he's paying attention to his environment and just hearing all this negativity about our community, about us. And that's hard. That is hard. That's hard to experience, hard to accept who you are when all you're hearing around you is, you know, gays get AIDS and, all this other stuff, all this hateful stuff, denial of employment, such and such. If I'm not mistaken, I believe 95 was also the year Philadelphia came out. I'm not sure. But if someone can fact check that, that would be nice. I mean, I'll do it myself, but, I'd like everyone else to do their little research as well. I think that's cute. Now, so we're now dealing with a middle school and going into high school age student, child, person. And so the mindset, although not so far off from high school age, is still, you know, like there's still that uncertainty of what to expect in high school. Will the bullying be doubled, tripled? Will it even be there? Now, it's always the assumption that in high school, like you will get bullied. Like that's just a hands down, more or less like death sentence upon entering high school. Because I'm sure some of you have heard of the popular phrase freshman Friday. I will say, as someone who went to public school here in New York, that wasn't a thing. Not for me anyway. Not in my school. My school is also very small. Very small. Like I think in total, like my graduating class was like 100 students. So that's like actually not bad. It could be more, but I think altogether there were like less than 1,000 students in the school. So for New York standards, that's actually fairly small, which I love. However, the classrooms were still like ridiculous, and only one teacher per like 30, 40 students. So, we'll get to that some other time, or maybe now, I don't know. So, Aiden has now got to make a choice upon going into his new school like bracket. He has to decide whether he wants to go to public school or Catholic school. Now, in in the case of Aiden, he more or less felt like it's a lose lose, because like he felt that he'll get bullied in public school, or in Catholic school they'll probably like try to beat the gay out of him or something. I've never been to Catholic school, but I have heard horror stories about the nuns. So, on the topic of bullying, Aiden Aiden has had some tendencies. I mean, who hasn't, right? And if you haven't and you say you have, if you have and you say you haven't, mama, you're lying. I feel like everyone has or has had a moment of like gayness, queerness at some point. And it's not even that. It's because that seems to be synonymous to effeminate, right? Someone being effeminate. So automatically, if a boy, a male or man, whatever, is effeminate, they're automatically or questioned if they're gay. Now, I know it's hard to believe that, you know, a busty, hairy woman like myself wouldn't be asked such questions, but I was. I was. People, and I mean, they were right, but people were like asking, like, and here's the real shit is that they were asking not me, but asking my brother. Now, I also want to reiterate once again, I am an only child. I have my any siblings that I speak of, they are my chosen siblings. They are my chosen family. So I have four of them as of now. What? Three sisters, one brother. And so we all chose each other in high school. And so now, of course, my sisters, they didn't care. They didn't care. Actually, well, now two, but one of them, because they're married, one of them, one of them was very open and, hey, pal. And, and like at some point, like we were that person that we came out to. So like I remember speaking to both sisters, and like we at first we had that whole, oh, I'm bi, kind of like to like kind of ease that transition, which it doesn't help anybody. It really doesn't. Like it's I feel like we use that to kind of make ourselves feel better, to make others feel better, if that makes sense. If it does, that's if it doesn't, explain, like comment somewhere, wherever that button is. And yeah, so eventually I just told them, my two of my sisters, like, yeah, I'm gay. Like, who are we fooling? Like, I like looking at guys. Like real tea. And so some of, like, I'm not saying everybody, However, I have noticed that for me personally, I have no I've noticed that if you pay attention to, and again, this means nothing. However, it's just funny to me that Aiden's favorite X-Man was Jean Grey. Bitch, my favorite X-Men was also Jean Grey growing up. So I was like, okay, okay. I see it now. I see it now. If Jean Grey, Rogue, Storm, or Jubilee were your favorite X-Men, you were gay. You grew up gay. If you're a boy. No, that's not true. Straight boys, if you're watching this, you can like all the female characters you want. It doesn't matter. However, Jean Grey, grr. So now, it, so while while my choice in character wasn't necessarily a tell all, I can more or less conclude that it had something. There was something there, right? Like like me loving Jean Grey, even though she didn't exhibit much on the cartoons. Like she was like always, first of all, always moaning and like always getting knocked out. So it's like, okay, it's not that she's like overly powered or anything. I don't know. Was it the red hair? Jean Grey fans, was it the red hair? Like, did y'all like the red hair? I don't know. It's like there wasn't really much of that in my life. Like, I don't know. That's just me. But like there are even things as silly and as small as the music you enjoy. Like I remember being younger and my uncle kind of pressing me on enjoying female artists, recording artists. And like it was just so odd to me because like again, I this might be the theme of the episode or of the show, but who cares? Who cares? Why are you paying attention to what I'm listening to? I'm not forcing you to listen to it. And if you are, guess what? You might enjoy it because the music was good. We're listening to Spice Girls and Britney. You would have had some fun. But, you know, kids will be kids, boys will be boys, whatever, whatever. All that gendered stuff. And and so that was like things like that. Also note, things like that can be very damaging to anyone, but specifically when you're saying it to a young person, a child, a preteen, anything within adolescence, because I didn't choose this life. Like it just fell on me, and so you know, Spice Girls just spoke to me. Britney just spoke to me. Like it Christina, like those artists spoke to me. Enjoying rhythms, enjoying falsettos and all types of like high notes and belting and you know artistry. Not to mention Spice World. That was my jam back in the day. Like any moment that I was able to watch Spice World the movie, I was in there. My cousins had it on VHS. I was like, ooh, let's watch Spice World. Like it's just so good. And it was like a musical movie. Like I don't know. It was Spice Girls. That was a moment. Like y'all were a whole moment. So kudos to y'all for doing that. Y'all did that. They ate for sure. And yeah, so like taste in music. Oh, okay. Here's how I feel like people knew. Oh, then again, yeah, people were still not sure. Girl, I wanted every doll that I can see. Like when McDonald's had specific characters, and like when they had like McDonald's, Burger King, all those fast food places, like when they had real toys. I'm gonna say real toys because I don't know what's going on now, but they were like some real fucking toys back in the day. If you're a '90s child, let me know. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the toys you grew up with, like coming from like fast food chains? I felt like those toys were like super cool. But I remember this was when Hunchback of Notre Dame came out. So that was what, 96, 97. Mama, that Esmeralda doll that they had at one of those places was mine. I needed it. She had the hair, she had the dress, she was giving. Miss Esmeralda was giving. But we're not here talking about Esmeralda or Hunchback of Notre Dame. We're talking about Flamers. And I but now that's not to say that I didn't want boys toys either. Like okay, I'm like bringing back all the old shit, but like what was that show? Beetleborgs. When they had a whole thing, I wanted some of those action figures. I sure did. Now, did I want the girl? Yes, but but I didn't mind what character I got. I liked the show, and so I wanted to play. Now, I do remember there was this one time I was out with my mom and a friend of hers, and I believe it was his nephew. We went to like Toys R Us, and we both got a toy. I forgot what he got. What now? This was entirely on my mom because I believe it was that time when I wanted the Beetleborgs or maybe a Power Ranger. I don't know. Oh, I also had the Pink Ranger toys, like action figures. My mom was like, "No, I want you to have this one," and it happened to be Black Cat from Spider Man. It happened to be Black Cat from Spider Man, who was like super ripped. Like she was essentially the female Captain America, and that was my toy, Black Cat. Now, with that said, I loved that action figure. Like that was amazing. I was like, also, mom, feeding the gay in me. She's like, no, bitch, you're gonna get this toy. You're gonna get this action figure of this strong ass, ripped ass woman. Well, I guess we can see life imitates art or art imitating life. I don't know. It's one of those two. But either way, look at me now, a strong woman. No. And so we go through those stages of bullying. For me it was very much like Aiden, you know concealing that truth, denying that truth from the self, right? Because especially growing up Catholic, you know you kind of you grow up hearing these things. You grow up hearing like it's not okay to be gay and all this other stuff. Then also I don't recall hearing things like that in my church, in the church that I grew up going to. However, as widespread as it was, you couldn't help but not hear it, right? And that is the very unfortunate part about about coming to terms or about being a child in a heteronormative world, right? You know, you grow up feeling like there's something wrong with you, like, and then you try so hard to deny it. Now, for me, it went on until I want to say fully at 23. 23 sounds correct. That was when I was already, oh, like I already had friends in the community. I had friends in the community, and I feel like I feel like those friends were very essential to finding that inner comfort to admit or to say publicly I'm gay, right? So like for instance, my mom, she found out my mom found out through, well, she did some investigative, you know, addition math. She's like, so I've noticed you have a lot of gay friends. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. This is it. This is it, y'all. The big reveal. Oh, the big reveal. We're gonna get to that some other time, but future book. But it was like, oh, I see you've got some gay friends with you, and you seem to talk about them a lot. Now, there was also photos that had circulated on, not naughty photos, on Instagram, Facebook, one of those, and it made people ask some questions. And ultimately, someone outed me to my grandmother. Still don't know who. If you're watching, I'm watching. And that kind of like, from there, I was already at a point where I'm like, okay, well, I'm like not hiding, but I'm also not advertising this shit. Like, I'm not walking around with a sign saying, hey, I'm gay, here I am. So shit happens. But you know what? It happened the way it was supposed to happen. And it happened, and I'm glad it did. Because once I let that out, once I finally was able, and because I told my mom asked, and of course I don't lie. I don't lie and I don't cheat. So she asked, and at that point in my life, I was not hiding it anymore. I wasn't advertising, but I wasn't hiding. So she caught me at the right moment, right? Like that was my time to be like, yes. I believe my reaction was a little different from that. The way she recalls it is that I just ran to the other room, which basically told her what she needed to hear. And so, you know, what can you do? Like once that cat's out of the bag, like there's no going back. But of course, she was very supportive, and kind of, and I feel very similar to my brother, a little, maybe a little disappointed or a little defeated that I didn't feel comfortable enough to actually tell her, you know. But that goes back to another conversation that I had with my aunt from my dad's side, where she was saying like, I was hoping that this would be a thing that shouldn't have to be a conversation, right? So like, in an ideal world, I wouldn't have told my dad that I'm gay. Like I would have just, oh my, we're coming undone. Like I like not like in an ideal world, I wouldn't have had to or felt the need to tell my dad or make some public announcement on social media, right? Because the truth is, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Mind your business. Like, and that was my aunt's point. It was like, my wish was that you would have just brought someone to meet us, and that's it. Male, female, non binary, trans, doesn't matter. The person that you're with, we want to meet them. We just want to meet them. We want to see who is bringing joy to your life, right? So, we're still not there yet as well in the world. I'm not even going to say in this country, it's in this world. We're not there yet, unfortunately. And will we in this lifetime? Who knows? We can only hope that yes. But as of now, it's not happening. Not for us. But, it still would have been nice to just not say anything, not ask. Here's the thing: if when I have kids, I just do you. As long as you're not hurting anyone, you're not breaking laws, you're not cheating, you're not lying, I don't care. I really don't. Like parents, I'm telling you now. Like, don't ask. It just doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Because if you love your child, that is what truly matters. Is the love that you have for your child. Whether they're gay, straight, bi, anything and everything under the LGBT, oh my gosh, LGBTQIA plus umbrella, right? Just love your child, love your family, love the people around you. Even if they're incorrigible shits, like, love them, because there's not enough love going around in this world, and we're all having a hard time as it is. So, like, there's nothing wrong with extending kindness and love, especially to your own family, right? Or to your children. So take that from me. If you have a young child, don't ever ask. Like, just whoever they bring home, that's it. Let that be that. If they start talking about, oh, I like a girl, I like a boy, whatever they are, you know, like, let that shit slide. Like, really, no one fucking cares. It's it's not taking anything off your plate. It's not hurting anyone. It just is what it is. Okay? So, going on from bullying, unfortunately, sometimes bullying leads to darker moments, much darker moments. Um, Particularly in the graphic novel, Aiden, he's had enough. He was mostly outed, and while his closer friends were somewhat supportive, he still kept it like on the hush. But this is when, like, this this book does get very deep, and like it will have you in your feels when it comes to this. Aiden goes to the chapel at his camp, and he tries to unalive himself. What is it? The Boy Scouts, they carry like Swiss Army knives or whatever. he was essentially gonna do that. Now, I love what this graphic novel does in depicting the magical realism of what went through his head, right? Like it's so cool because like we see this imagery of fire, right? The flames have deeper meaning. They have deeper meaning, and especially when it comes to oh, when it comes to how he felt about his queerness, his gayness, and battling the religious aspect as well. His spirit spoke to him. It came out of his body to tell him, stop. This is not what we want to do. This is not what we're going to do. And his own spirit, his faith, because we can also say that we can name it many things, right? That can be your subconscious speak. That could have been his subconscious. It could have been God. It could have been whatever you want to call it, the universe. I personally like calling it the Force. Yes, I'm a Star Wars fan, but also that name just makes sense to me. It's not even like about Star Wars. The Force, that makes sense to me, right? Because what is it? God, I personally do not believe that God is a giant man up in the sky. Now, for any Christian people watching this, if you're watching this, do not don't get your pitchforks and torches ready because I feel like calling it something else. That is what? My business, not yours. But I personally do not believe that there's a giant man up in the sky that determines our fate, which is where I enjoy the term the force because it is a force. It is just an energy. That is what it is. It's energy. It's energy. So a force of what? A force of nature, a force of blah 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 blah. Anything in between. Anything that you can put force in front of that. Anyway, we're not talking about the force. So Aiden's spirit speaks to him and talks him out of it, reminding him of the love that is in his life. Whether he wants to see it or not, whether life is difficult, it's tough, his home life may not be so great in this particular novel it wasn't, but he still had to be reminded that there was lots and lots of love in his life. And so keeping up with that, it was that was especially to read in public. Like that was tough. It was really tough. So, and I would say that I'm very grateful and very fortunate to not have had feelings like that or to not have been pushed to have feelings like that because that no. Like that's not cool. Like and that is the issue with bullying. Like the bullies, they don't understand the impact that their actions are having on those that they're bullying, right? I had a bully at a summer camp like many 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 years ago. Like I'm talking like I don't know, single digits maybe, single digit age, elementary school. And this one kid who was fairly bigger than me, he just had it in for me for some reason. I didn't know him, but he saw someone smaller than him, and he would bully me. Like he would tease me. He would like tap me and like hit my head, not hit my head, but like push my head in a way that I was like, stop, Please, like, leave me alone. I don't know you. I clearly now don't like you. You're fucking with my peace. I didn't say that. I could have and probably would have, but I didn't. But you're fucking with my peace. Get away from me. Had I known what I know now, oh, I would have delivered that line right before the ass whooping that ensued. Because yes, which the irresponsibility of the summer program that I went to, they created a whole circle, like basically wanting us to fight. Let's just say he wasn't fast enough for good old Diana, and he ended up hurt. Got his little ass, well, little, got his big ass beat by the smaller person. So then after that, he tried to be cool with me because he got his ass beat by me. So I'm like, get out of my face. Cause like, no, we're not gonna be friends. You were just mean to me for like this entire summer. I don't like you. I don't fuck with you. I whooped your ass. I'll do it again. Try that shit again. He didn't. And then of course, like these things would also happen on the school bus, which the bus driver wasn't saying anything either. And it wasn't a large bus. It was like one of those, yellow buses, a school bus. So you can see everything from your mirrors. So like there was some weird shit going on. I hated that program. That was a horrible summer. Like I hated that camp. And if whatever that camp was, you know, y'all don't deserve a place. Just saying. If you're putting kids to fight each other, like that's crazy. That was crazy. Like it was basically a cockfight. Well, but like that, it was just wild to me. So, and then of course, like no one came, like no one got involved. So, like when I had his ass like on his knees, there was no one to stop me. There was really no one to stop me. So, yes, but bullying could lead to worse things, y'all. Cut the bullying. If you have children and you don't know if they're a bully or not, really dig deep into their psyche and you'll find out. Ask the other, like figure out through the other teachers, through other adults in the school, to figure out who your child really is, because a lot of this does not happen when the parents are around and they just think that, oh, my child is so sweet and so this, so that. No, your child's a dick. Plain and simple. So like, let's cut the bullying, like forever. Okay? So as we wrap up this lovely graphic novel, which is actually like a very good size. I'll show you in a bit. But Mike Curato also added some resources. So I will be adding that in the bio link thing in the description, the video description. But I'll also tell you right now. So let's crack this book open, shall we? The resources can be found all the way in the back. So if you or anyone you know is struggling with their mental health, and there's talk about them wanting to unalive, please share these resources, particularly if they're LGBTQIA+, but we're not limited to that. So the resources here. Oh, I also want to add, in the afterword of this, our author does actually disclose that that moment in the chapel did happen to him. It happened to him. And the fact that he survived it, he survived himself, he survived his thoughts, and he was able to listen to his higher self, his higher consciousness, his subconscious, whatever you were calling it. He paid attention, and he made sure that he did not take that last step. So, Mike Curato, if you're watching this, we're glad you're here, because then we wouldn't have this lovely novel. But also, we're just glad you're here and haven't harmed yourself permanently. So, all right. So here we have. So there's the Trevor Lifeline. Okay. So we've got the Trevor line. So I'm gonna say the phone number right now, and you can write it down for anyone you have. Again, it's gonna be in the description, but I would also like to tell you. So we've got the Trevor Lifeline. So the phone number is 866-488-7386. All right. So that's specifically for LGBTQIA plus support. We also have the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, Lifeline. So that number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, if you or anyone you know is dealing with this burden of mental health, this heavy burden of mental health, please seek help. It's not worth unaliving. We're using funny terminology, but we're serious. Like, there's nothing fun or funny about that. It's very serious. And while, yes, you're hurting, we also want to keep in mind how ending ourselves impacts others, particularly those closest to us. I can't imagine I can't imagine doing something like that. And I hope I never get there. But I can't imagine doing something like that and then, like, with what my mom or how my mom would react in response. Like, I can't imagine doing that to her or anyone, my sisters, my brother. I can't, and I wouldn't want that for them. I don't want that for me, because I I love life, but ooh, like I value life, and it's hard to hear when people, when they don't value it the same way, especially their own lives. Oh, actually, there was another resource I saw in the back here. So we've also got, so the author adds, for resources to support you in your self discovery, go to thetrevorproject.org. And, okay, I'm not going to say this word, but it's glsen.org. Again, all these resources will be in the description of the video, and I do hope that it helps. I really do. If we can save one life, then that's all we need, right? You know, I I have made it a goal, a mission, specifically for this show, to shine a light on the LGBTQIA plus experience, but particularly in the lens of people of color, right? Because yeah, we hear all these other non we hear all these non POC stories, and they're great, they're fun, they're cute, but what about our stories, right? We suffer just as much. We go through things, and if anything, look, I'm not gonna assume that our lives are harder, but let's be real. Like, as minorities, like, shit's hard. And with the way things are going now, it sounds like they're about to get a little harder, but we must stay strong, stay vigilant, and keep reading books. That is my main mission of this series, The Reading Rain Hose, is to get you and everyone else excited about reading books, because that is where we're headed right now. It seems like they're trying to recreate Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. If you haven't read that, read it, because it is this crazy dystopian future where, well, actually, no, I think it takes place in like the 2000s. Oh my gosh, I'll have to look into that. It's been a minute since I read that book. But yeah, where they burn books because they want their citizens to be ignorant. They don't want them to be well learned. They don't want them to be educated. Y'all, reading enhances your vocabulary. It's mental exercise. We need mental exercise. You can't only exercise your body. You have to exercise the mind and the spirit. Like, all of these things are what create balance within us. Read books. It doesn't matter how big, how small, just pick up a book. I'm not saying news articles on online, because let me tell you, or newspapers, because oh my gosh, the writing in newspapers and online articles, huh, the writing is, if you pay attention, it's atrocious. Atrocious. Like, I'm like, how did they put these words together? How did they spell this? Who's checking this? Who's editing? Who's proofreading? That's what I appreciate about books, is that many publishers, because they care about their credibility as a publishing house, I'm pretty sure they have a very tight editing process and have people for that. So, books. This is a graphic novel. It doesn't matter. Just open a book, because you are reading words. Like, we've got words there. Look at that. Words. And so we must keep that going. We can't keep going not reading and not learning. As especially as adults, we must always be learning, and you do that through reading. I learned some things about Boy Scouts. Not much, but whatever Aiden's experience was, that was something. I learned that when extinguishing a campfire, you have to make sure that you're getting those coals too, because the coals are the hottest part of. And I'm sure this is common knowledge. Like, if you know fire, that's fine, but I don't. And like, I haven't been camping in like ever, like eighth grade, and I definitely wasn't setting up the campfire. So you can learn some things. You can also learn that people have hard lives, that we as a community, we get bullied, and life is difficult, and it drives us to do things that we know are wrong and that we don't want to do, and somehow still fall into them, and people end up losing their lives or getting hurt. So, with that said, pick up Flamers. Oh, Flamer. Pick up Flamer at your local bookstore, wherever you get your books or wherever you get books, a Kindle app or whatever, or some reading app, I believe Apple has a reading app, a book app, a library store thing. Go to the library or go to the library. And even if you're the slowest reader, practice practice makes perfect. You can be a very slow reader and take your time with it. It's not a race. No one is judging you on the length of or the speed in which you're reading your book. Okay? So, with all of that said, also, y'all, how do we feel about this look? Don't I look amazing? Oh, oh, oh my gosh. I was feeling myself today with this look. So, once again, thank you for joining me. I am Diana Diamond. You can follow me on Instagram at Diana Diamond NYC. And come back next week where we begin our Black History Month series, and our first book for said things is Flamboyance: The Queer Harlem Renaissance I Wish I'd Known by George M. Johnson. Now, this is a good one. Like, it has a few influential figures in during the Harlem Renaissance. If you don't know what the Harlem Renaissance is, you got Google. That's all I'm going to say on that. Come back next week where we begin our Black History Month. Okay? Bye-bye.